A good customer friend of mine asked me if I could help him with his Leatherman. He says it gets nice and sharp, but it doesn't last very long. And there's a good reason for that. There's nothing wrong with the knife at all. It's just not sharpened the right angle. If you take a filleting knife, this one here is mine. It's got a bevel of 15 to 17 degrees, depending on what you do with it. I had it at 17 and then I reground it to 15. Now this is one of my hunting chopping knives. It's got a bevel of about 25 degrees. I've made it nice and shiny and it works great, and it'll slice paper as well. But it'll chop right through a bone of a deer, no problem. Won't take any damage. This little guy here, I go through half a dozen fish cutting scales as well, and it'll lose its edge. That's because it's got a fine edge, cuts really fine, does a really good job. This is more your workhorse. So the point I'm making is he had a 17 degree bevel put on it, which was very, very sharp, worked very, very good. The only problem is it goes dull quicker. So I've suggested taking it up to a 20 degree, which it'll be a steeper bevel, and it won't get quite as razor sharp thin as a filleting knife, but it'll hold the edge it gets quite a bit longer. What that requires is regrinding this edge. That means removing a bunch of metal. So to do that, you have to start with a stone. This is a diamond stone for my Ruixin knife sharpening set. It's an 80 grit. It'll remove a lot of steel. I don't need to go that bad, so I'm going to start with the 120 grit. I've put a felt marker mark on here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little rub of felt marker. And the point for that is to see if I've missed any spots. Because a knife can get a chip out of it here and there, and you have to help that area as well, whether it's chipped or not. So we'll get started. Put a little dab of oil on the stone again. They say you don't need to oil them, but if you don't want to replace them, every half a dozen knives or so, oil them. So I like to draw the stone across the blade because I really don't like slamming my knuckles into the steel. It's fairly painful. So what I'm doing now is doing a few initial scrapes on it. Give it a wipe. And then I can see if there's any felt marker that's left or missing. So right now it's removed all of that, and it's already regrinding it back to a 20 degree. I think I might go to 22. And now to reset that again, I have to recalibrate this thing. I used to use my knife on here, or my phone I should say, to calibrate this. So you've got to hold it steady for a few seconds, then let it go, hold it steady. And it's supposed to zero itself. There we go. Then you take that, you put the stone on the blade, you set it on there, and it gives you the angle you're at. That's at 30 degrees. That's a little more than I want. So I'll lower it down until I get to 25 degrees. They're binding up together here. Bring that down. We're at 25.0, so that's almost immeasurable. So we'll call that good. Turn that off. Then I bring this collar that I bought separate up to hold this in place here. I've had YouTubers ask me, or questions on YouTube, this is what you use for the guidance system. This I bought here and put in because this will rise up, it'll rock. I put this in, it puts a little bit of pressure down in place. Then I can loosen this, and then I have the opportunity to swivel it, and it stays in place at the right height. So anyway, we'll carry on at 25 degrees. See how it spins there? Just lock it in place. So I'm going to reprofile this knife to 25 degrees. Won't take a lot of time because it's a very small, short blade. High carbon steel grinds off nice. But if you're not using a diamond stone like I am, you're going to be at this forever. And you'll find out that you used up most of your stone trying to get that down. It's already got a good burr. I don't know if you can hear it or not. A couple spots. Maybe that'll help you. I'm doing the cutting on the pull back. I just push forward to, whoopsie, that's exactly why I pull back when I cut it. You can call me clumsy or whatever, but if you've been doing this all day long, you kind of running on autopilot, and sometimes you can slip. That is very, very sharp. So we'll give it a flip. Do the same thing on this side. In spite of how it looks, I'm only cutting on the pullback. Because I want my stones to last, and if you cut pushing in toward the blade, that very sharp, very strong edge cuts into these and removes them. But if you pull back, you don't have the gouging. Because it's high carbon steel, it takes a pretty good stone to get it started. All right, so I'll drop down to a 240 grit stone. Always remember to remove the garbage that was left behind from the previous stone. And I will always reset my knife to the side that I started with, so I'm not missing any stones. I don't skip anything. This is my used up 240 grit stone. So all this is all still diamond, so give it some oil. When they tell you from the factory that you don't need to use any lubrication, just automatically assume that that's wrong, because it is. If you don't lubricate the stone with water or oil, I use oil because it doesn't promote rusting anywhere. The diamonds, they do wear off. They break off, they chip off. They're not done perfectly. It's just diamonds stuck to a product, and that product isn't impervious to wear. So I'm going to remove this tape here. I'm going to try. There we go. I can see it a little better now. Again, start the process in the same fashion, pulling the knife across the stone in the back. If you need to, you can concentrate on one area like such, then move over, concentrate. It cuts faster if you stay in one spot. It does open you up to the ability to make it, to cut a groove into it. So if you cut one pull to the whole blade, it keeps the depth of your grind, of your cut, the same all the way across. Go till you got a good burr, flip and switch stones. I'll be right back. Alright, so I switched to a 600 grit stone. It shows, like, they print out what the grit of the stone is on the front of them, on the top. That lasts about as long as it takes you to use the stone. So I flipped the stone. I'm starting from the original position. center the stone. Make sure this stone is set for the same thickness you have here in your guide, or you're not getting the bevel you think you are. If you switch between types of stone, you have to switch. So you take this stone, you slide it in here, and you adjust it so it's the same thickness here as it is here. If you use these carbon stones, which I don't know where they are, the fiber stones, they're a different thickness. So when you use them, you have to adjust the device to that. So here we are. This is a 600 grit stone. It's basically removing the scratches and gouges the other stones create, removing the steel that you don't want. That is amazing. Give it a flip, do the last on this side. I will typically stop most knives. I take the 600 grit because it's still a very nice shine, and it cleans up all the scratches and gouges from the previous grunt work stones. But this is usually good enough. A lot of people are just happy with a knife that's super sharp. Some people take a lot of pride in their knives and they want it to shine and be glistening. That is razor edge there. So for this gentleman, I like him a lot. He's brought me a lot of work. I'm going to put a little extra time in. I think there's my 1000 grit stone. You can see there's still oil and gunk from the previous knife. Anything that knife dropped onto this stone, I don't want to introduce into this project. I like to start with a clean stone, do the job right. I do this all day, every day, so I have a routine. Like a household kitchen knife. I'll take that, like I'm using here, this is 1000 grit stone. Just going to move the oil back onto the blade there. My fine finishing stones, I have a different process. It's obviously very, very much the same in that this stone is going to remove any imperfections the other stones left on the steel. Just finish this side up, then I'll explain the last difference my finishing stones do. As you can see, I've been pulling the sharpening for sharpening. Even if you're pushing, you're making the gouges that the diamonds cut are going this way. Whether you're doing it from a pulling or from a pushing, they're always going the same way. I try to, on the last stone, go across like this, and then you can change your direction and you'll feel when you've cleaned up all the little imperfections. Last thing I do, the apex edge here, I bring it down to here, and then I just slide it across. Try and keep it level. Hold your hand flat. And all this is doing is taking all those marks that you've made and erasing them. I pull it out because the inherent activity is this little bow a little bit, even if it's just microscopic. You'll feel right now when I pull it out to the end here and put the blade on the end, I'm touching the very back of this new bevel. When I have it here at the front, it's cutting the very, very edge. I only learned this by accident, and it's 100% accurate with every knife I've done. The farther I pull it back, the farther that way the stone is touching. And it makes, I'll show you here in a second. And it makes just an amazing finish on the stone, on the knife blade, sorry. The closer you are to here on this, the closer you are to the apex. After you've done it for a while, you'll get to the point where you can just zip it back and forth until you're done, until you reach from one end to the other doing this sideways. I'm just going to remove this guide altogether. Now I haven't stropped this yet. But I'll remove it and bring it closer so you can get a bit of an idea on camera what that edge is like. I don't know. Will the camera pick it up? But it is right now just a complete mirror, razor sharp edge. And when you strop this, the stropping is just cleaning up the edge that you've done. This is my handheld strop with polish on it. You want to try and get the angle of this the same as the angle you were sharpening here, which was 25. So that's roughly anywhere from 22 to 25 degrees. And I just pull it away. Pull it away and pull it toward, trying to keep it at that angle. As close as you can. Now if you went like this, you're just going to remove all the sharpening you just did. It's got to be at least close. What I'm doing is just rocking that burr back and forth until it breaks off. It does the same thing as the sharpening stones. Like you see the Gordon Ramsay use at 9,000 miles an hour. It doesn't do any better job than leather strop. Not if it's just a rod. If it's got diamond in it, yeah, then it can remove metal, but they typically are just trying to align the edge straight again. That's what those sharpening rods are for. They're not used for removing burrs because there wouldn't be a burr on at that point. I used to like to do anywhere between 10 and 15 swipes per side. I have a belt strap that I have mounted on the wall that I prefer to use, but to have that over here on camera doesn't work very well. So anyway, that should be plenty. Then I like to put some pressure on it and just draw it back away from the object, not toward it. And that just helps remove any of the polish that was left behind. And now we have his Leatherman is reprofiled. It is at 25 degrees according to the gauge. And if you can see, that is razor sharp. And it's such a beautiful shine. Ouch. Yep. Even at 25 degrees, it's just removing hair. A lot of people want to see, can't cut like paper. It really doesn't care that there's paper there. Even at a durable 25 degree bevel, takes a few minutes and you got her perfect. That is such an amazingly nice edge on there. Now my own knives, I prefer to use my whetstones, and I can do a video on that if anyone cares. Because it is a time-consuming process, I don't do whetstone sharpening as a rule, unless someone requires it or requests it. This is, because it's a diamond stone, it removes metal so much faster than the whetstones do. It just makes more economical sense. Anyway, I hope you've liked that. I hope you've enjoyed it. That's the end of touching up and reprofiling the Leatherman. Have a good day. See you next time.